So in this video, I'll be reviewing Mishima Yomu's work. The ones I will be reviewing specifically are The World of Otome Games is Tough for Mobs, I'm the Evil Lord of an Intergalactic Empire, Dragoon, and Sevens. Out of these stories, the only one I finished was Sevens and Dragoon. That's because I dropped Otome Game is Tough for Mobs and Evil Lord is still ongoing at this moment. I did read a good chunk of Otome Game as I got to volume 8 before I ended up dropping it. Most of this review will be done by memory as I haven't reviewed any of these novels in the last year. So the last time I actually looked at them was probably 3 to 4 years ago at minimum, and in the case of Sevens and Dragoon, back when they were finished translating, so like 5 to 6 years. Out of these novels, Sevens was my favorite, so I'll be saving that one for last. Let's start with my least favorite. The World of Otome Games is Tough for Mobs. Before getting reincarnated, the main character was a Japanese guy with an annoying sister who blackmails him into finishing this Otome game. Basically, in this Otome game, men are second-class citizens forced to fight in wars while the women just stay back and have the time of their lives. After pulling an all-nighter to finish the game, he dies from heartburn or something and gets reincarnated into it. If I remember correctly though, before he dies, he manages to get a note out to tell his parents that his sister's a massive bitch and gets her punished or something. He gets reincarnated into the game as a minor noble and wants an easy life. Basically the thing that every Japanese main character wants. Anyways, to do so, he basically tries to look for the DLC items in this world and gets them. The story then follows what happens afterwards, where the world tries to follow the normal Otome game steps or whatever, and he's just there with his OP bullshit. Anyway, some things that separate the story from others is that the main character is semi-interesting. He's a bit more arrogant than your normal Japanese main character, and is a bit more proactive as well. It is a harem story with, I believe, 3 love interests. I didn't get to the third one, but I think it was leading up to a third one. But for the most of it, there's 2 love interests, and yeah, it's a harem. Another thing that I should have noted was that it is a fantasy world Otome game, but like there's airships, mechs, and magic bullshit that happens as well. Mostly mechs though, so yeah. Overall, it was fine. It's not the most interesting story, but it isn't the worst isekai I've seen either. I'm pretty confident I just dropped it because it was during a slow period where the novel was getting released every week, like a chapter was getting translated, and it'd be pretty boring each time, so I dropped it. Currently, it has a manga and anime adaptation, so I don't know how well that's doing, but hopefully it's doing alright. On to the next work. I'm the Evil Lord of an Intergalactic Empire. This is his newest work, another isekai. Compared to other isekais though, it is a bit more unique. It does have mechs and all that stuff, but hey, it can't separate itself too far from his previous work. Anyways, in this world, his main character gets cucked and dies. He then swears that he will never be like a pushover ever again and he's going to become an evil lord. Or whatever that means. He gets reincarnated into a fantasy world where there's spacecraft, futuristic technology, but then everyone actually fights in mechs with swords. Although there is like rockets and shit, but whatever. He's born in an upper class, he's a ruler of a planet, and he tries to be what he thinks is an evil lord since he doesn't want to get cucked again. The thing though is, this is the main focus of the series, is that his ideology and everyone else's, their values are all completely different. For example, he could say he implements the death penalty only for murderers, and then everyone in his country, well I guess in his world in this case, would say that, oh my god, he's so progressive, I can't believe the death penalty isn't used on everyone anymore. So as you can see, this novel focuses more on comedy. The comedy is the misunderstandings that occur between him and other characters in the series. There are a lot of random elements, some things that don't really make sense for world building and whatever, but it's honestly fine since it's supposed to be a more comedic overtone. Overall, my review is that's alright. It also has a manga that's out and getting chapters right now, so yeah, if you want to check it out in that medium, that also exists. The next work I'll be talking about is Dragoon, which is his first work in this list. And as a result of being the first, it suffers from a bit of polish. Some things in it don't make too much sense, but they do exist. It takes place in a fantasy world where the main character was born into an extremely corrupt family. But at a young age, he saw a dragon, and then he thought to himself, I want to ride a dragon. And that's basically the novel. That's his aspirations for the rest of the novel. He basically wants to be the pirate king, but in this case, he wants to ride a dragon and become a dragoon. From what I remember, the main cast of characters were fine. They weren't too bad. They were pretty generic, but overall it was fine. The main issue that I had with this, that is, for the end half of the story, for a decent chunk of it, it feels like everything goes wrong for the main character just for the sake of it. It kind of feels a bit bullshitty, But yeah, the story had a lot of stuff that I actually did like, which is why I rated it a bit highly in my mind. So I'm going to spoil it a bit. If you want to read Dragoon, here's your last chance. Okay, that's enough time. So one thing that I really liked, which was a twist in the mid of the story, was that it was an isekai, just that the main character wasn't the one getting isekai'd. It was another character in the main cast. I thought that was interesting, and this was the first time I've ever seen it, so pretty cool. Time for his magnus opus, his masterpiece, as far as I can remember, which is Sevens. Sevens is his best work by far, because of a bit of nostalgia, but whatever. Novel Update still has it as one of the more popular novels, even though it has 0 chapters. Sevens takes place in a fantasy world of swords, magic, and skills. It follows the main character, Lyle Walt, who gets kicked out of his family as it turns out he's not the favorite child, and now his sister rules. Before leaving, he acquires an item from his gardener, which is an abandoned family heirloom. This heirloom is a gemstone. It contains a clone of 7 ancestors of his. Each ancestor of the Walt household essentially creates a copy of themselves, puts it in the stone, and passes down the skills to their descendants. So, for the rest of the story, there is a bit of focus on the past through the ancestor, and a bit of how that impacts the present. For the rest of the story, Lyle travels the world with his ex-fiancée and meets people on the way. He learns skills, learns more about himself, learns more about the world. This story is a harem, so he does meet more girls and gets with them. There is a point of comedy in the story, although it is not focused on heavily, and there is a decent chunk of world building. Sevens is pretty long, especially if you read the light novel variant instead, as that adds volumes to add more girls and more stories to it. But if you read the web novel, there's around 343 chapters of decent length. Overall, Sevens is my favorite story, favorite web novel in general, actually. And my biggest issue with it is that I never got the adaptation that it deserved. And also that the original fan translation for this is no longer up, as he got DMCA strike or something. Anyways, that's my review for his novels. I might do more in the future, so stay tuned. Anyways, have a nice day and goodbye.